Hello, agus fáilte rascu trí seascad. In program uair ar BBC ALBA had dul go cría scíalach gan na bhoireannaich ingantach an an saoil spórs na ALBA. Gachtir den ag 8 uair an fescar, bhís na corach ag bhoireannaich an spórs, so gur an céal an talan sóireachte ar ar starsích ac in héin. Thuaigh ar bhí tocail ar an príomh chusbrin an lá. Is mise Iona Ballantyne agus ha mé glé toirt ra go Laura Montgomery callroom san studio. Manager clubbe, Sean Skipper agus tegan G Glasgow City. Hatar ac yn rhywbryd mi gen yn noch, cluinnidh sin fo Katie Rood in clickeadar balcosha boran santel ha fain an faighir son a bhí clickead gan clubs gan dúich eiche. Coirtí sin mar a ha cúis na dul an fiabhas gan na borannaich an na balcosha, agus bhír sin sùil ar na dúlan ha club rugby úr an Paisley. Bhí sin cúiseach go leantal cúis gan na clickeadar an eadar-nàiseanta haar glúisid go clubbichin úra. Laura, welcome to 360.
Thank you.
Now, we were hoping to be looking ahead to Scotland's Euro qualifiers against Cyprus and Portugal. They have now been postponed. How will that affect the team?
I think it's probably the kind of right thing to do. I think most teams, most players are back training, but many of them wouldn't have played competitive matches by then. I think there's no doubt it wouldn't have been the preparation Shelley and the rest of the coaching staff would have wanted. So as frustrating as it is for all of us as fans that we don't have the games to look forward to right now, I think it makes sense to postpone to the team, and that's just not Scotland, but the opposition as well is kind of more up to match practice.
Shelley will be happier to have some extra time though for these preparations.
Yeah, no, 100%. Obviously the English League's back up and running now. We've got a lot of teams there. The Scottish League will kind of be back in full swing. There's obviously players currently playing in Sweden, etc. But Scotland is, our national team now have players that are kind of representing all over. Some of our players that were in the States, such as Rachel Corsie, are now in England. So I think it's definitely to Scotland's advantage to have put these games back. So hopefully, when we start off now, which will be Albania, we'll be flying and all the players will be up and fully up to speed.
Well, the thing is, with games abroad now, there are huge cost implications, charter flights, single occupancy rooms. I mean, you had experience of that with Glasgow City. How does that affect the team?
The team probably love it because they don't have to share. They don't have to share anymore. They get their own room. But I mean, obviously, for a club like us, that was obviously significant change in kind of cost levels. For all national teams, that's now a huge challenge. Particularly even for countries that are hosting major competitions, because they love putting their name in the hat, to be a host, and they'll have had a budget against that, and now they're having to provide, as you say, single rooms for everyone that's taken part. Just everything is completely changed. In terms of the transport needed to get to games, because you can't, players can't sit together on a coach anymore, then you need to be socially distant. So, the costs for everything have kind of gone through the roof. So yeah, our National Association will be feeling the pinches of that as well as everyone else.
How did you find your players adapt to that when you were away?
I think they adapted really quickly. Obviously as a club we'd been training in those kind of circumstances for 4 weeks. So, and I think all of us, to be honest, have adapted quite well. It was obviously very strange, but we're all kind of now living this life where we don't touch anything, we keep socially distant. So, I think our players had been well versed with it. We'd managed to play a couple of bounce games, which kind of helped in terms of preparation, in terms of even travel and being distant. But I'd say, the girls were used to living in that kind of bubble that we had done for a number of weeks, and it was kind of no different when we were away.
Gan je vangen torsen dal barach uni jeschi son de clikke daarin, weer een kutjach kolom de gutschgeef is zorgige gestij ag na clubbichin urachke. Has je neer wie tors sùil kust in de clikke daarin ALBA nog, had wie gloested some meese megerig.
Ha skipper idir vi eit kriana transfers, sin Birmingham City. Sé Christy Murray a chiad chlicketar a hanna stay. A varach idir vi click còmhradh sean chlicketar Glasgow City Abby Grant, ha Murray inis na skipper gan a club. Ha barach alapanich san skipper inis. Le Abby Grant on marha ha skipper alapan in ban Rachel Corsie is Chian Trondoris and a Utah Royals. Agus ha Jamie Lee Napier is Chian Kuchach a Chelsea. And G Shaka is on season. Han clicketar Gian Chloe Arthur idir gálch an tuv eile go Aston Villa. As Jerry Shach bliana a clickers on Arsenal, ha Emma Mitchell inisht iad glúsad sias an rát go Reading. Gus úine a bharach gaing iad a farc.
I spoke to my agent and said that like I just want to have like a base that is like really solid for me that like this time and stuff. That I love like 2 minutes at the back there for like Lisa and Viv, so like that's ideal. Like I've still got like a lot of the core girls that like I've spent so much time with me, like still around me, which is important to me. So yeah, like no moving and still being able to get to Reading. It's only an hour down the road. It was like really helped the decision making as well when signing for them. And it's obviously a new environment and new players and a new coaching staff and a new way they do things, and especially with like coronavirus like still being about, like you having to do, like we can't shower at the training ground, we can't get any food, and it's all been very much like we've been like in a pop-up tent and stuff as well, like in the training ground, because you've got to have like social distancing. So it's been like difficult that way, but in terms of like the football wise and stuff, like once you're on the pitch, it's no stuff that you actually seem to think about it.
On the WSL Championship, Leicester City is Sophie Howard eingestay vo Reading. A bharach iad ari hi an iad a farc, on some mias megedig Leicester City inisht goprachug, sin an dóid die skippen en fair, maar skippen professionte laan unie.
I think for me personally, I needed to make a change to be happy again, be enjoying football again, and be enjoying being myself again. And that's how I decided to move on, basically. And I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm enjoying it on the pitch, I'm enjoying it off the pitch. So far I can say it's been a good move. I mean, obviously there's a difference in level, there's no doubt. But I think we have, in the championship, we have good teams that are competing. We have quite a few that are competing for that spot of promotion. And so I think it will be a very competitive league, and not a big drop between potentially the top two and the rest. So I think as much as WSL is growing, Championship is growing as well.
Ha Everton is Claire Emsley eingestay vo Orlando Pride son un season. Ha Emsley ewlich mar ha is clicketer Alpenach Lucy Graham, agus be an clicketer a dhiist a gopper college manager a Weiche a Cabernian, Willie Kirk. Nasask is an day, le skip a lan talent mar ha skippen an ban Rangers is Lizzie Arnott eingestay a Manchester United. Kuchach ag Rangers, ha clicketer an Cluinnidh Sam Kerr agus Kirsty Howard a Glasgow City is rochúnantan untagug. Ula galeir, be manager ALBA Shelley Kerr Tollichuk gewil na clicketer an eike is as a clich, ulak ag art ide agus go ide professionte. Be het Jeshal agus id virin son a gemmichin kutramach ache in Albania agus in Newland ag jedig en daver.
As much as I would have loved to meet up with the girls again, and I think as a whole Scotland team, everyone was ready to go again, especially after this long COVID phase. But we can't forget COVID isn't over yet. I do think it's the right call. It's very disappointing for us, but we just have to take it and just be ready for the next one.
It's just been so good to see the girls, because it, like you said, it's been such a long time, and like we've all been mates since we were, I don't know, some of us as young as like 12-year-old, because you just spend so much of your time at football and stuff like that. But you didn't think, like, because you didn't have that opportunity with the national team, it's really difficult to meet up with people because you're obviously not in the same country or whatever it is. So yeah, it would have been brilliant to see the girls, but I mean, hopefully the games like go ahead like next month, and I'll just be like as normal once, as if you've never seen them.
Laura, there's been a lot of movement down south and here in Scotland, and some huge names coming in. Alex Morgan to Tottenham.
Yeah, I don't think there's many players left in the NWSL in the States at the moment. Yeah, it's been a huge upheaval for their league. You know, so many of the big American names obviously coming to play in England, which really is getting known as the kind of big financial league of the world. So it's probably of no real surprise that's where most players are wanting to play their football right now.
And some big money transfers.
Yeah, I think obviously Per Neil Harder that we played against at Wolfsburg, rumoured to have gone for about £250,000 to Chelsea with only a year left in our contract. So for the women's game, that's kind of mind-blowing that there's now that kind of amount of money being kind of thrown about. But yeah, it's as I say, England does seem to be the kind of league where all the financial muscle is.
Did you ever expect to see the game grow in this way with this with the financial backing now?
Probably in the last few years with a lot of the, the kind of major men's clubs, I think. Probably to a certain extent, probably a wee bit sadly for me that it's starting to just replicate the men's game where, there's clubs that, let's face it, are owned by sometimes small countries, and just have huge amounts of wealth that doesn't necessarily, match up with their kind of income streams, but they've just got such, large, powerful owners. So that's obviously managed to bring an awful lot of money into these clubs, which then obviously benefits the women's game. And I think personally we're going to see a kind of top kind of eight European clubs that will just kind of, as I say, a bit like probably the kind of men's game, just have so much more money than everyone else. It'll be quite challenging to keep up. But certainly just now it's exciting getting some of the best players in the world coming really, really close to Scotland.
And I guess closer to home, Glasgow City, is it quite hard to retain your players just now?
I think it's always been hard to retain players, simply because, players, if it's like anything, as soon as you're doing well, other clubs want to have a look at your players. We've probably had a pattern of that, ever since we started to really compete in Europe. We've probably lost, our kind of better players at the end of every single campaign. Obviously domestically, we're seeing more movement now, with a lot of investment in some of our kind of, more local clubs in Glasgow and some of their signing policies, to obviously try and weaken their opposition slightly as well. So yeah, there's been quite a bit of that. But I think, as women's football, that's the way of the world. It's bizarre now that you could say we've got players that have signed pre-contracts for rival clubs, but it's been the norm in football for a long time, that this exists and that is football. So for me, I don't really find it strange. It's just a change that was always coming to the women's game, and it's just, it's kind of coming now.
Are you finding it more difficult not having the backing of a men's team?
No. Financially, yes, it would be great for someone, to be able to give us the money to do that. I think, as I've said many times, we, very deliberately have chosen not to go down that path. We've been approached a number of times over the years, throughout our 22 years for that. I think, as I've said lots of times, I think our, if we call our club a business model, our business model is based on, a kind of just cause, and our cause is championing, women and girls. And I think for any sustainable, successful business, you need to have something like that behind it. You need to have a real reason as to what drives you and why you do it and what change you want to make happen. So, for me, running a football club isn't just about, short-term gains and, perhaps, winning a trophy, or because it's maybe deemed to be the right thing to do, or because of shareholder pressure. We do this because it's something we wholeheartedly believe in, and we believe for championing women and girls. So on that reason, would I want to be part of a men's club? No.
Eerst in een sheer ask when we called common balcoshin na ALBA, a torsion in, fhaighinn na cluinnidh and boireannach fireannaich. A shot chin shachan a strain a còmhradh Brazil agus sasin, a geisha gumbi eadsin a fhaighinn duish gonna skipian eadar-nàiseanta achgasin. A velan tauman route to genuine shot on an ALBA, Katie Rood von Frostbeck and shot tri shasket in shachkinse. Varstan uri hoek USWNT cúslog en ei chocatragus balcoshin a station earnichtje, a shirig araget geoli fo ach de fai coyonan. Gavna skipperin Megan Rapino agus Alex Morgan chuna main and social testication and blena, en uri hulig bref skiril a machen takragachke, and a clicketarin a hakrag genu en naya veen. In Shachgain Shochai, Ginch Cam Suye cho Catracus Balcosha Brazil and Jario Caboclo, whom five skipper Bhoireannach Brazil and fiagri skipping am fair. Hur coachin a skipper Pia t-saoghal agus clicketair and vor fiagan tool, falche eadar-nàiseanta.
I hope that you and everybody else see the smile in my eyes. This is just history. And to be able to be part of this is something special. So, really from my corazón, my heart, very thankful.
An nuirshin hanna clann-nighinn fo Phàislig gunnar iad sin a bhí pàigh in airgid agus bónasin gan a skipian achga fireannaich is boran von earliach in blena. Choirí níramhí Australia agus sealadh nuach siad na hen dúchanan haar cò-ininneach pàigh i Ballantyne. Tá ball Parliament Balagun Levy Hannah Bardell scríbh go ceann suya in SFA I fáinneach go bhfuil an beachcan in fhaighh go chóirt do skip bhoireannach na ALBA siad a toirt dhéanamh fír. An dráasta chanealach in cluinnidh an til a fáinnean in fhaighh ag éire club agus eadar-nàiseanta Ruud a chuir éanaigh cluinnidh sealadh nuach Katie Rood.
Usually when you're the only person in the world to do something, it's something amazing, but it's kind of a little bit heartbreaking, honestly, to think that the only player in the world to be not discriminated against at club and country for playing football, for being a female. Yeah, it's sad. It would be great if more clubs kind of tuned into it and yeah, just gave us the kind of up that we need.
Tá Ruud de cluiche son skippe championship na Ban Lewis, a chiad skippe professionte who can earn fhaighh do na fírs na boireannach and a dávíle sa hochtíag.
It's a lot easier, I think, for a smaller club to do it, but at the end of the day, it does just come down to a decision at board level. Where are you going to invest your funds? If the funds are there, why not split them equally? Especially if like you have the same product, or well, different products, but the same ambitions within them. You know, obviously, anything with more investment, it's going to get better. And I think we're seeing that now with women's football. It's starting to develop to the level that we you know, well, it's developing. It's not, we're not at the highest level. We know that we're capable of so much more, but the more investment that we're seeing into the game is, you know, the better that us players are getting.
A lot of things are moving in the right direction, but there's still a very long way to go, isn't there?
Yeah, there is, and I think it's really important that national associations are taking this step. You know, I think you know, it was obviously Katie kind of hit upon it there. It's going to be more challenging for men's clubs to do that, you know, given the astronomical amounts of money that, you know, a lot of their male players are paid. But, you know, it's certainly, I think, easier to be done at kind of national association level, and probably even, you know, more so important, you know, given that they are there, you know, to service the international teams of the country, and there's absolutely no reason that they should be treated differently whatsoever.
I mean, for Katie Rood to be the only woman player in the world to be paid the same, that's astonishing.
Yeah, it is, and it is absolutely astonishing. As I say, you know, probably possible because, you know, Lewis isn't a club that's paying, you know, their men's players huge salaries, and I think that's where it will be difficult for this equality to be represented across the board, just because the amount of money there is in football. But as I say, I would like to see more and more national associations kind of join the others that have done this so far, because, you know, I think national associations, you know, except for kind of bonuses for reaching major tournaments, you know, we're not talking huge sums of money, you know, that gets paid to national team players when they are away on duty. So, you know, I think it would be fantastic if, you know, pretty much all of them can sign up for that equality.
What would be the most important next step here in Scotland?
I think for Scotland, I mean, I don't actually know if there's equality of pay in Scotland. I think that's one of the things. I don't think anybody fully understands it. A lot of that might be down to the way that, you know, the payments are made. I think possibly just now in Scotland the daily allowances are the same, but there's payments in the men's game, there's payments to clubs for when the players are released. That doesn't exist in the women's game, so there's certainly more money available there on the men's game that we don't see you know, come over to the women's. Certainly there's still major differences, certainly in Scotland, in terms of, you could see how, you know, the players are treated. You know, the men's national team would not go to a game unless it was on a chartered flight. I think even maybe the under-21s have gone on chartered flights. You know, our national women's team, that's still not the norm. I think it was only the World Cup when Logan Ayre kind of sponsored the team that was the case. So I kind of think, you know, a lot of these infrastructure background things in terms of, you know, standard of hotel, number of physios, number of, you know, staff that are away with the team, as I say, travel, these things to me are much simpler to start to put equality in place and make happen.
Do you see that affect the women players?
I think most women's players that have been around, you know, have kind of gone through the journey of having pretty much nothing, and I think you know, rightly or wrongly, they're kind of very grateful for representing their national team. I think and they're very grateful for kind of, dare I say, kind of anything they get. But I think what you do see is when they are given parity, the difference it makes. And I think, you know, when you are competing at the highest level, you want to be treated like a professional athlete. And I think, you know, it certainly will make you perform better if you only have to concentrate on the game. You know, I mean, I say this a lot, you know, in my lifetime and really not long ago, but, you know, when I was in my mid-20s, and this would have affected players like Joe Love, who are obviously still with the national team, you know, they would play for our national country. When they'd come back, they would go into they'd be sent into the airport toilets to take off their travel kit to hand it back. You know, so if I look at how far we've come in 20 years, it's significant, because the girls, as I say, they were wearing extra large men's kit and they had to return it before they left the airport. So we've come an awful long way, but I don't think you know, the steps that are needed to really make it go that much further, particularly at national team level, is too hard. And I'd like to see, as I say, I'd like to see kind of more of it across the board.
Cótach Kevin Costner sa film Field of Dreams, a club rugby Phàislig in dochas t-saoghal gun chiad. Se unut a haun skippe ein a farke, ach se gnoch ela haun club a tukkel vo vungu bar. Sin in dúlan ha mechani of Louise ní goin, agus kai sin hel ora gus fein amach mar ha opper jeski a dul.
Ag club rugby Phàislig heited roinn osgeluk to bhoireannach agus clann-nighinn. Va father son une. Get I hast ag either còmhradh.
They were actually discussed before I joined the club, so I've only been here for 2 years. But we've got documents stating that we're looking to try and get a women's team started as far back as 6 years ago. So this has been a long time in planning. It's just needed that sort of final kick to get it to where it is now. The hardest thing that we found was actually finding somebody to be the main driving force and the leader of it. And we've got Louise in, which is fantastic. We had advertised at the tail end of last year, and nobody came forward to us, but luckily enough, that's one of the biggest hurdles, was to get somebody with the same passion and the same level of passion as we've got for it, to bring everyone in and to make the club a complete club, to be honest.
Ha Louise nicht gegoing iddo bhí na coache fa dábliana. Agus fa I ag cria arachun cúsin an the Paisley. Agus chéh agí an sa
Paisley's been wanting to be fully inclusive and have a women and girls section for a while. So at the start of the year they put out an advert for it, and my other half plays at the club and things, so I was kind of asked if I would be interested, because I think he told them my background of being a coach and being a player. So I was asked if I would be interested, and I thought, why not? Just because the sport itself is really big for women and girls across the whole country at the moment. It's massive, and it's just growing from strength to strength. For girls specifically that are a girls only team, we'll start them at under 12s and go all the way through to under 18s. So it's under 12s, under 14s, under 16s and under 18s. Then they can progress into the women's team. Younger than that, they'll play mixed age from P1 to P7 with the minis. So literally from P1 all the way through to however old you decide to carry on playing to, there is something here. And then if you decide that full contact rugby isn't for you, but you really enjoy the sport, we've got that touch team as well.
Ha club rugby Phàislig a crutchin gemór na chéil na bha a cúdbachach is spárs na ban an the nist.
As far as we're concerned, there is no barriers. It's an open pitch, a level playing field. Everyone's on it. We want everyone of every gender, every age, every ability to come to the club and enjoy themselves and have a good time. And it's all about that. It boils down to one thing: having fun. And if it should be everyone together. As you said, just like a family. Yeah, women have been involved in clubs previously. It's only in the last few years that it's kicked into the playing side. But it's all about that. Boils down to one thing: having fun. And if it should be everyone together. As you said, just like a family. Yeah, women have been involved in clubs previously. It's only in the last few years that it's kicked into the playing side. but it's not, I mean, it's long overdue, long overdue, and we're just happy we've got the ability now to make this offering to the people of Paisley and Renfrewshire.
The club's been very open. All the seniors have been really good at saying if you need a hand coaching or you just need a help with anything, come and let us know. The touch team's been really inclusive as well, of saying, right, if your numbers are low one week or that, we'll just do a joint session and things once obviously the restrictions allow. So yeah, it's the support there for the club's been absolutely great, and even last week after saying, right, okay, here's the numbers, here's how many we had down, everybody was like, wow, that's amazing, great work. So yeah, it's been really good.
Han hadwan a ha Ep2 go Paisley fás, agus can le genú Jefferson B and ye rugby vek, rugby benting, no rugby ban a ha te clich. Ha an spores in is a Glasgow adana doing savala.
For me, especially at Paisley, this club's a family. So it's getting people who come down and watch the seniors play. So that's how I got involved in the club. I used to come down and watch the seniors on a Saturday morning, the Paisley 2s. So it meant that I could actually come down and get involved and start playing, rather just than sitting on the sidelines, and actually enjoy a sport that I've grew to love over the past year and a half, 2 years.
I was playing normal touch rugby, and then Louise said that there's a ladies touch rugby here, and I thought, well, I might just give it a try, and that's how I got into it, really. I saw my dad play, and then he came here and he said, well, this space is open for me and my brother that come here, and I said, well, why not give it a chance? And yeah, that's how I really got into it.
I didn't throw a rugby ball till I joined here just after COVID. I was meant to start with the touch team before lockdown, before COVID, but prior to that I hadn't passed the ball in my life. I was the person at school who used to get the parents to forge the notes so I didn't go to PE, and now I'm playing, something I never thought I'd be doing.
Bhí maithe this nían, Sandra agus Charlotte Chainpal ag gal páirt an the rugby benting an Paisley. Bhún gadid, ha an díos acha id Jeffer mór echting an the rugby ban an san nársingach.
Beforehand, I'd only been the taxi driver, going to the meetings and doing the washing, where now it's the whole thing. And it's the whole family, because I've got my son here, my daughter here, and my sister here. So everybody's here and they're all having fun and they're all running around.
I find it's very social because it's all ages, everyone's here, everyone's allowed to be here. It's not like you're a girl, you have to go there, you're a boy, certain ages have to be separated with touch. Everyone can come together, so it's much more comfortable. 12
and up, everybody's in together having fun.
Instead of everyone being like, well, I'm mates with, for example, I'm friends with quite a lot of older people, so I was always dragged away from them. But here you can be friends with anyone and you can talk to them. You don't have to feel like, oh, well, I have to go now. So
I'm a kid, I'm over there.
So it's now all together and it feels much more of a like family in a way, because you're much closer and you're always able to speak to everyone.
Le amas can be skipping and ban a click good profession to the state davliana. Ha a hulle dinge ag a club go tolliche, je wil een ruim uur ache, de bhoireannach agus clann-nighinn, de còmhradh de t-saoghal.
It's only going to get bigger and better. It genuinely is. Last week was the first session, and with the rain and everything, I think a few people were maybe put off a little bit. But I know for a fact the girls that did come down, that they were newbies, they were footballers and hadn't done rugby before, and they're now getting into a new sport. And they're going to bring friends down this week. So the women's rugby and at Paisley, it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And hopefully the girls that are playing in the minis today, they're going to stay, and then they'll start playing in the women's team and the girls' team once they get a little bit older.
It makes me feel amazing that we've got this offering and that we're pushing it forward, and that everyone can be involved in the one thing at the Paisley family. And the club's motto just now is pride, passion and Paisley. Play with pride, play with passion and play with Paisley. It's the right thing to do to bring everyone together, and we can all show some pride in this. And that's what I feel when I see people walking off the pitch. Boys walking off the pitch, girls walking off the pitch, men, women, anyone walking off the pitch, covered in mud, having fun, exhausted, and just absolutely loving life, because it does bring you together and it's a really, really good community environment. And going forward, it's only going to grow, and hopefully the sky's the limit.
Just really proud and really excited to see where this is going to go with the club. It's going to go from strength to strength and just get stronger, but there's a lot of interest that even women that are wanting to come down to the session that have maybe got a younger daughter or things, they're wanting to bring them along. So it's good to have that balance there, that we've got the space for the younger ones and for the older ones. So yeah, it's really, really good.
A team from scratch, that's your forte, isn't it?
No, I mean, I think first of all, that's, it's fantastic. I think what I really took from that VT is just, you see the pleasure that sport brings, all different levels. So yeah, starting a team isn't easy, but delighted to see that, how well they're getting on, and their numbers seem to be growing significantly every week.
I mean, what will be involved for Louise to be growing this team?
I think a lot. I mean, I think she's probably got a bit of help, because obviously there is an infrastructure there, already. So, one of the hardest things is usually getting facilities. So they seem to have a facility which is excellent. But yeah, it's usually it's all the basics of facilities, communications. I mean, back in the day when we started, God, I don't even know if there was. I think email was just starting. So basic things of how you communicated with people was certainly an awful lot more challenging. But yeah, money will always come into it, because all those people will be turning up, and they will all want to be looking the same as soon as you start playing games. You've got all your facility costs, your officials costs and everything. But I think the most important thing is it's just great to see more women's sports available, and I think particularly for not just for young girls, but for for older people, for people my age, that like that particular person really struck me when they said they didn't really take part in PE at school, and there was so much of that when I was younger, and a lot of it was just because unless you were the really, really talented girl, then you weren't really given opportunities to play, because you had to play with the boys. So, if you weren't really good, then you didn't really get to play. And that, I think, just denied so many girls sporting opportunities. So to have that now, with clubs like Paisley is excellent. And that's not at all what you asked me, but it just really inspired me watching that.
But do you see any girls or women come into Glasgow City who are from a similar background, who didn't really want to get involved at school? Yeah, I mean, it's probably more challenging for us, because obviously our kind of women's age group is very elite. So you probably had to be one of those young girls that was a kind of standout when you were younger. But certainly what I do notice is probably a very significant number of our, our mums that come along that bring their daughters. Most of them go out their way to say that, they would have loved to have played when they were younger, but there just wasn't, the chance to do so. So, when I look at, that generation, of women who would love to have been, taking part in sport, probably would mean they'd be a lot, more fit and active than they are now, because that's the pattern. If you're fit and active when you're younger, you tend to remain fit and active when you're older. But, they've kind of managed to change that outlook for their own daughters, and, have made a point of obviously bringing them along to our club, which for us is fantastic, because, like Paisley, our numbers, just grow and grow every week. Would you start a team again, or is Glasgow City your one and only? Oh no, it's definitely my one and only. I have no time in my life to start another, that's for sure. Brilliant, thank you. Wel, sin son program na seachtainsa, ma hang for the Laura son a bhínam cúteach in studio. Fydd eisiau fynish garlantal gach seachtain YouTube, mar sin Jankiel gymbysiv a geish gyfel a còmhradh, gymbysiv garlantal agus naf calsiw program sy'n B. Cynnig y gyda sio yn program acafse, mar sy'n sgilaf yn ddeag fat agus farshain agus cymif oraf y B a coed, wadach I spores for an ich na ALBA, mar sy'n live yn drast.